Welcome to another episode of the Bandage Podcast, a weekly wrap-up of the most trending healthcare news. Each week, we'll discuss the latest in healthcare, health IT, and compliance.
In this week's episode, we discuss a woman going to jail for not treating her contagious tuberculosis, a successful treatment of fetal brain-eating disease, and a meningitis outbreak in Mexico killing dozens. Let's wrap things up. This is episode 172 for the week of February 13th. I'm Matt Moneypenny.
And I'm Albert Battistelli.
Before we get started, our diagnosis code of the week is S30.867 or insect bite, non-venomous on the buttocks. Whoa. Ouch.
Bug butt bite. Bug
butt bite. Wow. It's huge.
Wow. Bug butt bite. Yeah.
Non-venomous. That's good.
Yeah. I wouldn't want like a poison butt.
If it's non-venomous, I mean, what kind of bug bite would send you to the doctor? I guess if you wanted to get it checked out to see if it was venomous, maybe.
Sure.
You're like, I got this lump on my buttocks.
Maybe it's just very uncomfortable when you sit down. So you're like, I need to go get this
Yeah, maybe. I guess that checks out.
checked out.
I'm validating all people who have gone to the doctor for something like this. You are validated. We do see you. We do hear you.
Bug just wanted that cake.
You get that treatment that you need. Okay, well, anyways, let's get into it. First up, we've got Facing the Music. A woman in Washington state is facing electronic home monitoring and possible jail time after spending the past year willfully violating multiple court orders to have her active contagious case of tuberculosis treated. A local health officer ordered the woman to self-isolate and treat her TB, which she declined to do. The woman has not complied with such efforts, has discontinued treatment, and is unwilling to resume treatment or voluntarily self-isolate. As such, the health department is seeking an order requiring the woman to isolate in her residence and cooperate with testing and treatment as recommended by medical providers. The court renewed its order on January 20th, 2023, adding that failure to comply this time may result in a finding of contempt whereby the court orders further measure up to and include electronic home monitoring and detection and detention in Pierce County Jail or other lawful orders the court may issue in accordance with the applicable code. Whoa, that was a long sentence. Holy moly.
That was a lot.
That was a lot to just say, hey, if this woman doesn't comply to this, self-isolating order, she's going to go to jail.
She's going to go to jail,
or get at least house arrest, which I feel like should probably be the first step.
Right.
I don't know if it should be like, hey, you're not doing this, you should do this. I think it should be like, hey, you should go do this.
Right.
Like that's pretty it's pretty intense to require that kind of stuff, or
it is.
to not follow some super infectious disease guidelines. It's interesting because tuberculosis has been around forever. We know it, right? Yeah. The whole COVID thing, this isn't even related to that. I'm just saying tuberculosis, we know it exists. We know it's bad. We know it's super infectious. It's been around for hundreds of years. So find that to be interesting.
I know.
Sign of the times.
Sign of the times, man. But you can't just have her out there in public. You can't just have her out there giving kids TB.
That's right. TB or not to be.
That's the question.
Right.
That's so funny. Oh, well. Good luck to her. Good luck to everyone involved. Because I feel like putting her in jail, then you're just risking the people in jail. Because I feel like unless you put her in an isolated unit, she's going to be interacting with people.
That's right.
So, yeah.
Scary times.
For real. All right. Next up. No brain eating today. A decades-old drug for urinary tract infections may also work for brain-eating amoeba infections, which kill the vast majority of people who contract them.
Whoa.
The drug's promise was demonstrated in a recent case report, which describes a 54-year-old man whose brain was infiltrated by amoeba. This particular type of single-celled organism lives in dust, soil, and water and can enter the body through skin wounds, cuts, or through the lungs when it's inhaled. The amoeba can then enter the bloodstream and travel to the brain, triggering a very rare infection that kills around 90% of the people infected. The doctors got approval from the FDA to use an antibiotic, nitroxaline, that was found to kill the amoeba in laboratory settings. They then started the patient on nitroxaline and observed rapid improvement within a week. The patient was soon discharged from the hospital. Hey, that's cool.
Hey, brain eating amoeba. I've heard about this amoeba before.
Me
At some point
too.
in time, I remember there was a story that came out of Florida about this thing.
Yes. Yeah. Some lady like was on vacation and then ended up like
Yeah, it was
cut
wild.
her
It was almost
leg
like
or
a myth.
something.
Yeah. It's crazy.
From what I
Well-
understand, it's not the treating it; it's the more like finding out you like by the time you figure out you have it, it's
Mhm.
too late.
Yeah, because it's like I'm in the water. Why would there be something that would eat my brain? That's not a normal thought that someone has.
Right. And then
I've
it's
never in my
like-
life once been like, I'm gonna go swimming and then it come out and be like, oh, I gotta check for this brain eating amoeba.
Right. And then you like feel kind of funny, and then next thing you know, you're like
One
dead.
thing leads to another. You go to the dentist or doctor. Dentist?
Right.
Wow. We're going to the
Doctor.
dentist too. Go to the dentist,
Right.
kids.
Do that for sure. Brush your teeth.
Well,
But either way,
Mm-hmm.
this is cool. This is cool that they have something that like worked, something that we've talked about this before, something that already existed to treat one thing.
Right.
And they're like, oh, maybe we can just like see if it treats this too. Oh, it does.
That's huge.
That's really
Huge.
great.
Next up, mysterious meningitis. State officials in northern Mexico on Monday reported another death caused by a mysterious meningitis outbreak, bringing the total number of victims linked to the disease to 35. The first case of meningitis in Durango was confirmed late last year when doctors diagnosed several cases of aseptic meningitis and especially harmful inflammation to the brain. The infected patients in Durango had all been subjected to surgeries. They used spinal anesthesia in private hospitals in the sprawling state's capital. Meningitis. Whoa. Scary.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It
And
is
all the
interesting.
people like had a spinal surgery prior to this, like
That is weird. It's like, how does that
That's-
relate?
right. I want to know that connection.
I wonder if that's like is that like a cleanliness thing or like
It could be.
something else?
Yeah. Could be that batch of anesthesia they use. I don't know. Like that's interesting.
Yeah, that's
that's
whack.
really, really interesting. That's whack.
It's whack. It's my new
whack, yeah.
phrase for this podcast. Whack.
I like it. Whack.
It's very hip. It's very cool.
You know what
All the
else?
cool kids are
You know
doing
what
it.
else is whack?
What?
Breaches.
Breaches are whack. Anyways, whoa. Next segment alert.
BREACH, Breach Patrol. It's a breach! All of the latest cybersecurity breaches.
Welcome to Breach Patrol. We talk about the latest breaches all across the world. Albert, what is it?
Okay. First up, we have Birmingham-based buffoonery.
Ooh.
Right? Look at that alliteration. A Birmingham-based medical practice is informing patients of a data breach that could have compromised personal information. Cardiovascular Associates, CVA, discovered on December 5th that systems within CVA's network may have been subjected to an unauthorized activity. After an investigation, it was determined that a third party had gained access to personal information and removed a copy of some data between November 28th and December 5th. CVA says that some of the personal information may include social security numbers, medical and treatment information, passport and driver's license numbers,
Ooh.
credit and debit card information, and more.
Yikes.
That's
More?
a lot. That's like the holy trinity of whoa.
That's right. The Holy Trinity. That's like Bed Bath and Beyond, right?
It
And more.
really is.
Social security numbers, passport, driver's license numbers, medical information, and beyond.
And credit card number, like that's insane.
Oh, that is tough.
You got your social
Hopefully,
security number and your credit card number.
it seems like there's still it says it's just informing patients. So this is brand new, fresh off the presses. It means they still need to figure out how big this breach is. But I think due to the nature of how big the breach is, number one, because it's HIPAA, but also because all the sensitive information that actually got leaked, they needed to disclose it as soon as possible in order to avoid
Mhm.
larger fines from the government. But what is certain is I imagine there will be a fine from the government regardless.
Yeah,
Because that's
I
what
would think
happens.
so because there's a lot of
Yep.
stuff there.
But I bet you they just give you free credit monitoring, because that's what you do.
Mhm.
I wonder if one day there's going to be something that's like better than free credit monitoring for breaches.
Probably.
Like, oh, like we really took care of you. We really care about our clients. Here's a more expensive thing that we're going to comp for you because we were too,
Right.
we just kind of let your data leak.
Right.
Next up, sharpened security. Sharp Healthcare, San Diego's largest healthcare provider, announced last week that it has begun notifying over 62,700 of its patients that some of their personal information was compromised during a breach. The breach did not include bank account or credit card information, social security numbers, health insurance information, dates of birth, health records, or information about the services received. Sharp says the type of compromised information varied from person to person. Only patients who paid a bill using the provider's online bill payment service between August 12th 2021 and January 12th, 2023 were affected.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's weird. It's a shame that the online bill payment service is what breached it, because
Right.
a lot of the older
Likely
patients
they don't even run that.
right, and a lot of older patients don't even, that getting adoption rate of older people to be able to be cool with paying online is hard, and
Right.
you're not going to increase the adoption rate of your new, very automated, very easy payment processor if there's a breach involved.
Right.
It's just that. It's that simple.
But nice that it didn't include bank account or credit card information, social security numbers, health insurance information, dates of birth, or any of that stuff.
It's almost like you're like, it's like a drug commercial, like right at the end.
Uh-huh.
So it doesn't include
health insurance information, bank account information, social security numbers, that kind of stuff.
That kind
Unlike
of stuff.
the previous story where all of it was breached.
This is still a breach, but it's a step better than the one before, because that other one was really bad.
For sure. Okay, last up here, hashing the hashed passwords. U.S. subscription-based background check services Truthfinder and Instant Checkmate had their systems impacted by a data breach. The breach resulted in the exposure of data from over 20 million customers who used the services until April 16, 2019. Exposed data including first names and last names, email addresses, phone numbers, and hash passwords.
Hash passwords?
Hash passwords.
Hash passwords.
Hash browns. What?
Whoa. Hash browns. Not included. Not included. Hash passwords. You know what a hash password is, Albert?
It is a password that is stored and or is it procedurally generated? Which one's the difference?
So it's like one that's like just kind of script. It's kind of like jumbled.
Yeah. So like procedurally generated jumbled password that nobody else can get access to. It's supposed to keep it safe. It's like a random assortment of stuff.
Yes. If that gets exposed, I don't know if doing like forgot my password process would work, because it might be on the account level.
Yeah, I don't know.
And if it's on the account level, then they got to remake accounts for all of their people. And we're talking over 22 million or 20 million people. That's not good.
It's not great. We don't want it. We don't want hate to see it.
Checkmate. Instant checkmate. More like
checkmate.
Checkmate. Instant checkmate. That is really bad though. So, email name. Last names, first names, last names, email addresses, phone numbers. From a data perspective, that's almost. I feel like at this point, with so many breaches, this is. Email addresses, last name, first name, and phone numbers are essentially the same as like just your name. Right. It's like not that important in terms of like privacy. Like I'm sure most people don't want that to be exposed because it'll lead to phishing attempts, which is exactly what's going to happen here. Mm-hmm. But at this point, it just happens so often that everyone just expects spam, right? So if you fall for spam, it's a training thing, not really like a breach thing, in my opinion.
Right, for sure.
And that's it for this week's wrap up of your weekly healthcare news. I'm Matt Moneypenny.
And I'm Albert Bettistelli.
I'm all day next week.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Bandage Podcast produced by eTactics.